like I have to relish that for a little bit, huh? Wow. My heart is full. Thank you, Rod. So, you realize we're about 1/3 of the way through 2018? Shh. It's like people don't want to hear that. I'm curious. Our theme for 2018 is awakening. Have you awakened? Some of you are like, uh-huh. You know, it's up to you. You obviously got to see that we have lots of activities, classes, and book studies going on here, right? It's the invitation to do your spiritual practice with community, with love. So, our Science of Mind motto, change your thinking. And when you change your thinking, it's because you open to a new awareness. And we can open to a new awareness till the day we die. So are you ready for today? Yes. Got your seatbelts on? Yes. Got your seatbelts on? Yes. Okay. Some of you are thinking, oh my God, what is she going to do next? So our theme for the month is Awakening to Our Abundance. And we're reading the book, there's several different covers, but Lynn Twist's Soul of Money. Do you notice it's science, S-O-M, Science of Mind, Soul of Money? And you know, it's the perfect book to follow. Our last book was The Untethered Soul in Michael Singer. And both of these are aware of the conversation that's going on in your head. That conversation that's going on with yourself that you don't even realize is going on with yourself until you become aware. I loved that when I, at the sustainability conference, there were about 60 students in a room where I did a lesson and, you know, a session. And one of the young women walked up to me afterwards and said, you know, what stuck with me when you said it was, I don't have to believe what I'm thinking. That mind that's chattering, that since childhood, you know, the tapes that you've been told go around and around in your head and you don't question them until you become aware. And the first step is becoming aware. And then not doing the shoulda, woulda, coulda, becoming aware and saying, I can change my thinking about that so that it aligns more with the truth, not the beliefs that I've been told in my past, or on TV, or in the radio, or in the news. The other thing that the Untethered Soul talks about is that sometimes we get injured and it's like a thorn. And instead of us actually addressing the issue, we start protecting the thorn, just making sure that nobody runs into it, right? And money? Anyone feel like money is your thorn? Now, for those of you who are new here, we don't standardly talk about money, but this is the month of awakening to your abundance. So, you know, money is one of the easiest topics to trigger people on. That's why we usually don't talk about it. Shh. It's very fertile ground to grow spiritually. There's so much serious growth that can be done around your beliefs about money. Why do you think that is? Okay, it's highly connected to all of us, but then why does it have to be such a trigger? I mean, you get up and brush your teeth every day. That's not a trigger. Survival? Because you don't think there's enough? Yes. In the USA, it's a scorecard. Yeah. Yes, the illusion of security. Intense race beliefs, race beliefs, as in beliefs that continue to be passed on generation by generation. So does it have lots of emotion around it? Which means you have lots of energy around it. And you can choose what to do with that energy. And as noted, in the United States, we've assigned very big power to money. And so because there are so many emotions, attitudes, and deep beliefs around money, it's very easy to trigger you. So do you understand I'm taking a risk today? Do you love me? I hope so. And I'm very serious that if you get triggered today, then make an appointment with me. Let's talk. Because we're about awakening. We're about changing our thinking. And we do that in community. So I hope you'll see today if you're triggered as your spiritual opportunity. So repeat after me. I am a center for spiritual living. And the truth is, I'm a center for living. Yeah. Now, we can just say living as I live through my life and I'm just doing rotely what I do. Or I can become conscious of the sacredness of the energy that I can choose to pass forward based on how life has already given to me. So how you think and deal with money in your life is really a mirror of your spiritual living. As in, how do you see the meaning of money in your life? Perhaps we haven't spent enough time contemplating that, to get behind the real truths of what money means to you. So, what do you think are the most typical thoughts about money? Not enough. Hard to get. Got to work hard, right? Is that all? Tainted? It doesn't grow on trees. It's the root of all evil. It comes out of a birthday card, so you can't wait to have your birthday, right, David? David Isham has a birthday on Tuesday. Let's wish him a happy birthday. Yeah, there's not enough. Scarcity or scare city. The city of fear. It's a myth. But you have to discover that myth within yourself. We're just here to give you a little fodder for that. What you do with it is your business. And when it's scarcity, it's really fear. The fear is opposite of faith, and fear is also opposite of love. And you are deeply loved. You are love, literally. You could not live without the energy and power of love. Scientists may not call it that, maybe one day. So we don't tend to fear our next breath. I don't think you feared breathing in the time that you've been here, have you? So why do you fear where the next flow of income will be? Because of belief. That is the difference. So I'm going to be quoting a lot from The Soul of Money. Page 208 says, "We think we live in a set of circumstances, but we don't. We live in a conversation about our circumstances." Katie Byron would say, love what is, because what is just fact. But how we think about it and interpret it and talk about it, that's where we live. We live in a conversation about money, and we live in our beliefs about the money that help support that myth of scarcity. Page 8. Money only has the power that we choose to assign to it. Now, as a kid and as you've grown up and, become an adult and move through your different experiences, however money comes to you, make no mistake that society has told you all about it, right? What have you told yourself about it? Oh, whatever society told me. Our society has created the banking system, what interest is, the stock market, loans, mortgages, bonds, credit scores. And they all want to rate you, don't they? Your worth cannot be defined by money. You didn't get here by money, did you? How did you get here? By love. All of those, mortgage, banking, loans, they're all rules that we've mentally constructed externally. And it's true, we are spiritual beings on this earth, and we do have to, quote unquote, live by the rules. But your belief about how you're participating, where you're participating, is your choice. Whether you're bankrupt or a billionaire, those are just money labels. And they're conversations about money. But that doesn't define you as a spiritual human being. I had to learn that. 2008, had some real estate, went upside down, and I had to really get that I am not defined by that. I know who I am. I know my worth. And I continued to develop my belief about this too shall pass, and I will get through this because I know my worth. When I was at the Jesus Center spring luncheon yesterday, a young woman shared her story about how she was on the streets and addicted, and her life was, she was homeless. And it was very inspiring to listen to her share how she came to understand her self-worth. And she's no longer on the streets. So money does not define your value. So where do you spend your time in money conversations that are in your head? Developing your net worth or your self-worth? I'm not saying you get to ignore your bills. I'll get to that in a second. Spiritual growth takes practice, and what I'm inviting you to do today is to practice your conversations about money and separating that about what is your worth, and knowing by having faith in flow, and by knowing your self-worth, that you are able to see how you move money in the world as a privilege, a sacred privilege. Here are some affirmations. I am worthy. I am divine. I am the love of the world. I am life itself. And you got to know those truths just not by wording that. I mean, positive thinking gets its quote-unquote bad reputation because, I can just say those things. No. You have to move yourself into alignment energetically about those truths. You have to feel them in yourself. Now, yes, you can fake it till you make it. Does make a difference, because every time you are saying those things, if you've got something in your head going, no, I'm not. Really? I'm not so sure of that. That's the contemplation and the practice. You are one with all life. Your internal bank account is never empty, because your love and light infinitely. There's always love to give and always love to receive. That doesn't cost you anything. You're never bankrupt of love. You are a love billionaire. So that's a fun affirmation. I am a love billionaire. So scarcity has a chronic sense of inadequacy about life. And it becomes the very place from which we think, act, and live in the world. And this scarcity is deeply embedded, not in the money, in your relationship and conversation about the money. The Soul of Money, page 209. Scarcity speaks in terms of never enough, emptiness, fear, mistrust, envy, greed, wanting more, wanting more and more, hoarding, competition, separation, judgment, entitlement, control, survival, winners and losers, expectations, dissatisfaction, looking for riches outside of ourselves. I loved yesterday at the Jesus Center luncheon. The author of The Shack was there. Very inspiring. It was very good. And one of the things that I carried away that I've stuck with me, I've already put it everywhere. If you carry no expectations, everything is a gift. Waking up in the morning, putting your feet on the ground, having your breakfast, looking out into the beautiful backyard. Everything is a gift. To become consciously aware of that richness only blesses the flow of energy in your life. It appreciates, it expands. So would you say our society speaks of scarcity a lot? Yeah, they call us consumers. Got to consume more. Consume more. I mean, we consume at voracious rates compared to many other countries, do we not? Look at the landfills. Our economy is driven on spending more and more and more and more. And all of these tenets about money don't make us feel very good. Got to have more. Not satisfied. Got to have more. Not satisfied. Got to have more. Now, we understand universally there is abundance. That's just a universal truth. If you choose to see it that way, believe it that way. But abundance can also be the pendulum of the swing from scarcity, meaning if you really live with scarcity and then you say, well, I know there's abundance everywhere, that can also be elusive because now more is always better, more is always better, more is always better. And now we're living in more, more, more. What about sufficiency? Can we deepen our experience of the gifts in life by appreciating what is already here and what we already have? What if the universe is always providing and hence there's no reason to have fear and that there is no reason to have more and more and more? What if there is sufficient supply always? I was listening to Andy Turin's lesson last Sunday, and he was talking about contrast. And contrast, I always love to use contrast to have the conversation with myself. So when I think about abundance, I think about those pictures you see of young children in Africa who have nothing. And then I sit in my chair and say, oh my God, am I blessed? So again, there is abundance right here and now. That's not the issue. The issue is believing that there is not enough, that there won't be enough, essentially living specifically with money, with fear. So how can we be stewards of our money to allow for the circulation of life, not just to gather or hoard it, or not want to give it, resistance, reluctance, constipation, or flow? You know, there's 7.6 billion people living on Earth, and Earth is finite, but we can still all live well with what is sufficient if we aren't having to hoard and have more and have more. Now, I love this story out of the book. It's called Herschel and the Greedy Goblin. Herschel offers the greedy goblin a pickle from a pickle jar. The goblin sticks his hand in the jar and grabs many pickles. But then he tries to pull them out. Finally, Herschel says, after seeing that the goblin is incredibly frustrated, "Would you like me to break the spell?" "Yes, yes, help me break the spell." "Your greed is the only spell holding you prisoner. Let go of the pickles, and your hand will be free." The fear of scarcity keeps us trapped. Because scarcity is a story we tell ourselves. If we have faith that there is plenty and that there is flow, then we wouldn't feel like we have to stock up or be resistant in our giving. So, page 209 of Soul, sufficiency speaks in terms of gratitude, fulfillment, trust, faith, wholeness, appreciating, expanding, treasuring, possibility, sharing, collaboration, contributing, valuing what is, being a good steward, living with integrity and resourcefulness, because we know the infinite riches are within. So the language, did you get the difference between the language of scarcity and the language of knowing our prosperity and our abundance? There is plenty. Your struggle has nothing to do with the money itself. It's about the relationship you have with money. Do you notice the repetition I'm throwing in there? Awareness. If we see that money's just a flow, rather than something that is constantly escaping our grasp or being diminished, instead it becomes a flood of nourishment. And we have a privilege of being the trustees of that flow. Our relationship with money then ceases to be an expression of fear, but instead becomes an expression of exciting possibilities of choices we get to make. So, in other words, even as you spend money, if you see that as a depletion of your stock, instead of it being that you're blessing a receiver with energy, funds, then you've missed out on the joy of stewardship. So your money can be viewed like it's your power to vote every day, right? Because we said we spend money every day. And using it as a way to express what you give value to. Not something that's taking away from you. So how did you respond to your taxes? Did you say, ugh? I mean, again, society regarding taxes, and yet togetherness, collaboration, what we have as a society, it's blessing, giving, valuing. I know a lot of you don't get excited about balancing your checkbook. But do you know where you're giving your money? Are you conscious of that? And then being conscious of that, do you appreciate that and recognize you are choosing where to send the understanding of there is plenty? So Lynn Twist represents the Hunger Project, which is a project about, it's been proven that there is enough to go around in the world. You all know that, right? It's a matter of distribution, how to distribute. And she happens to be invited to meet a CEO of a large food company, and she literally has to travel on a plane, go to the corporation, etc. And she sort of gets ushered in. It's not really much, seeing people eye to eye. It's sort of like, here, sit down, he'll get you in 15 minutes. Then she goes in and she finds out that she's going to get 15 minutes or less with him. So she starts her story about the Hunger Project and, what its purpose and goals are. And before she even finishes, he opens his drawer, hands her a check for $50,000 and says, "Thank you very much." So she flew home and wasn't feeling very fulfilled. Could you get that? And this food company had had a bad reputation, so what did that make it feel like? Conscious? Intention? That's right, a gift without the giver. Well, that same night, she happened to also have a presentation to give in Harlem. She shares her story about the Hunger Project and, again, their goals. And this is quoted from the book, and I can just see this. "Girl, my name is Gertrude, and I like what you've said, and I like you. Now, I ain't got no checkbook and no credit cards. To me, money's a lot like water. For some folks, it rushes through their life like a raging river. Money comes through my life like a little trickle. But I want to pass it on in a way that does the most good for the most folks. I see that as my right and my responsibility, but it's also my joy. I have $50 in my purse that I earned from doing a white woman's wash, and I want to give it to you." Is that inspiring? Why? It's from the heart. That person is very conscious. Matters not what her monetary situation is. And, as you said, it's the giver of the gift. It's that connection. Yes, yes. She's giving with the intention that I have love, I understand my responsibility, and this is my joy. Wow. Value? Matter of fact, it hit her so deeply, she sent the $50,000 check back to the CEO. Yeah. Wow. Now, this woman has lots of experience in philanthropy, so it's very inspiring with many stories that she told. Let me ask you some questions before I tell the next story. Do you think money warps your thinking? Yeah, it's true. Yes. It influences it, let's say the least, right? Again, it's got power, the power that you give it. So, what would you do for money? Would you ever kill a child? God, no. However, she tells a very touching story about women in India who, because when they have an infant daughter, have to have a dowry, or their family goes bankrupt. Now, I tell you this story not to give you the horrors of it, but to let you know that the women in that village needed to come together and collaborate and have many discussions with each other before they could approach the male elders in the village to say, we will no longer do this. Now, that may seem like a very far stretch for you, but I'm sure we can all find a story of where we allow our thoughts and conversations about money to warp what we do, when we do, and how we do. You don't live on a fixed income. when I hear that, I always say, the universe is going to give you a fixed income. Is that what you want? No. It's really your mind that's fixed. The universe has unlimited ways to enrich you if you want to open to that. So, the spiritual practice I want to encourage for you this next month is being conscious of your feelings and your stories about your money flow. So how are you going to do that? I'm going to suggest that perhaps you put a sticky note on your debit card, your checkbook, your purse, your wallet. And maybe that sticky note says something like, I'm choosing to bless and appreciate all those to whom I give this money. Or whatever affirmation fits you. So that you can become aware of how you give. Okay, anybody been triggered yet? Then let me start the next subject called tithing. See, there was no laugh. I'm telling you. Spiritual practice right there. Hello. Blinking red light. If you feel yourself going, do you feel it? Become aware of it. First step. The law of tithing 10% has been around for a very long time, yes? Now, many of you may say, oh, yeah. That's just because ... whatever your story is. Now, life is already given to you, right? In energy, in love. Again, if you're not expecting anything, everything is a gift. Life has already paid it forward. And you are recognizing that energy in motion when you are tithing. And you're choosing to steward the energy to which you love and see value. What you send into the universe comes back to you. And you know what? Nobody else knows but the universe. The universe knows. And what you put out is mirrored back to you. When you tithe, I think about this like, you have one seed, you plant, let's say, a seed of corn. How many seeds of corn do you get back? Like that. That's how fruit works, right? I planted tomatoes 2 years ago. I still have tomatoes. Tithing is loving and blessing that which has blessed you. It's about your faith and trusting that indeed God is your source and that your tithe will come back to you. Now, you have to pay your bills. Those are commitments you made, but I assume it's because there's some kind of services that you're happy to have. PG&E, transportation. The earth gives, the sun gives, the soil gives. How do you give? Giving is natural. But are you conscious about how you feel when you give? Or are you reluctant and cranky to let it go? Are you feeling like you have to hold it back? Or stock up? Soul of Money, page 75. If you're willing to let go and let go of the chase to acquire and accumulate always more, you can take all that energy and intention and invest it in what you already have. I have something to give. So, we want you to bless this center with resources, not because you feel like you have to, and if you're reluctant, don't do it, because what are you going to get? More reluctance. We want you to bless this center with resources because you love us, because you appreciate us, because you value what we offer here, both in community, in activities, in services, spiritual mind treatment. Our form of affirmative prayer is being done for everybody in our directory and those that ask to be added. And your higher good is constantly being known. We're not currently meeting our financial monthly goals, just FYI, and I don't have a reaction to that. It's like, okay, it's there. It's an awareness. Our budget was based on what people gave last year, and we aren't hitting that target. So we will be discussing in a board meeting tomorrow. We have some spiritual practice to do ourselves. Not just the board, not just the practitioners, all of us as a community, if we want to continue to see what we have to offer flourish. So we as a community must release our myth of scarcity. Together, we must find the value that we feel this center offers and determine what and how we want to do to steward our money. And it requires a change in our thinking. So I hope you'll do your spiritual practice. Become more conscious of your conversation about money. See that you already are blessed and have plenty. And give out of the belief and attitude that it's your privilege and your honor to bless those around you. Namaste.